Hey you nines, it's Mr. CHEN-KE here. This week we're going to move our focus onto text response essays. And as you guys would know, the outcome of this unit, the common assessment task, will be a text response essay in which you will analyse and write about To Kill a Mockingbird. So this is the first video in a refresher series, and the aim is to sort of refresh your memory on what text response essays are, how to write them, and what the conventions of this particular form of writing are. So we're going to begin with just a brief reminder of what text response essays are. So a text response essay aims to analyse the text, and in our case, To Kill a Mockingbird, and focus on a particular aspect of it. Now, you've been writing text response essays all the way since Year 7. So in Year 7 you would have wrote a text response essay on the book Holes, and in Year 8 last year you would have focused on the Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Lexi Sherman. So this is not a style of writing that is completely new or novel to you guys. You will have some prior experience. So I'd actually go back and look at past text response essays that you've written and see, what you can remember, what you thought you did well, and what areas of improvement you want to address this year. So for the text response essay, you're going to be given a choice of 2 topics to respond to. Essay topics are usually referred to as prompts in English, and both topics or prompts will focus on a particular aspect of To Kill a Mockingbird. For example, they might ask you to consider the themes of the book. They might ask you to analyse the characters in the book, or perhaps to consider the setting and how it informs meaning in the text. Both essay prompts will direct you towards a contention, that is your overall interpretation and your point of view or your opinion about the chosen topic. So you're going to need to have a stance on the topic itself. Here are some sample essay topics based on To Kill a Mockingbird. If you look at the first one, you'll notice that it starts off with a quote and then a question. I hope and I pray I can get Gem and Scout through it without catching Macomb's usual disease. In what ways is To Kill a Mockingbird a story about prejudice? That's a very classic essay prompt in which you have a quote and then a question. Second one is a little bit more of an interesting one. That is not a quote, it's got the single inverted commas, which means it's a statement. So at its core, To Kill a Mockingbird is a coming of age tale, discuss. So that's an interesting one. Do you agree that To Kill a Mockingbird at its core is a story about coming of age and growing up, or do you disagree, or are you somewhere in the middle? The third topic on your screen is again very much a statement versus, or do you agree versus disagree topic. So Harper Lee suggests that the only way to combat prejudice is through empathy. Do you agree? So again, what's your contention? What's your opinion? Do you think that the only way to combat prejudice is empathy, or does Harper Lee suggest that there are other ways for us to overcome and challenge prejudice? Text response essays have a pretty set structure. Usually they're about 5 paragraphs. The bookends of your essay are the intro and the conclusion, and usually teachers will ask you to write 3 body paragraphs. With that being said, if you want to write 4 or 5, that's purely okay as well. That's absolutely fine. This is purely just a recommended structure that your teachers probably have told you or taught you about in the past. Alright, so now we move on to the conventions. This is how we actually write text response essays. This is where I would be taking some notes in your workbook. So you might want to pause this video, grab a pen and your workbook before we move further. Alright, text response essays must be written in formal English. So there are 3 things that you're going to need to know. Number 1, you need to avoid shortenings and contractions of words. So don't write don't or can't. Instead, write the words in their full form. So do not, cannot in this case. Also, when you mention the author in your essay for the first time, state their full name. Afterwards, when you refer to the author, use their last name only. So the very first time you mention Harper Lee, make sure you write her whole name out. But after that, the rest of the essay you just refer to her as Lee. Third and finally, do not use the term book. It's okay for us to talk about Mockingbird as a book when we're using conversational English, but in your actual essay, either refer to it as the novel To Kill a Mockingbird or the text. So these are 3 things that you're going to need to know before you write a text response essay. Second convention that we're going to look at today is tense. Now, we write in present tense for a text response essay because writing in past tense sort of sounds like we're retelling or summarizing the story rather than offering actual analysis. So, even if something in the novel has already happened, for example, a character's death, we still must use present tense. A little bit of a tip: when you're trying to identify tense, look for the verbs. A lot of the time, tense is very much seen through the verbs that are used in writing. Okay, what I'm going to get you guys to do now is a bit of a writing activity for me. So in a moment, I'm going to get you guys to pause this video, but let me explain this activity first. So in your English workbook, please turn the following 3 sentences, which are written in past tense, into present tense. You will need to rewrite the whole sentence. So all 3 sentences, please rewrite them fully, but this time, change them to present tense. Remember, currently they're in past tense. Okay? So, I would spend maybe 3 to 5 minutes doing this activity. Right now, I'm going to ask though that you pause the video on this screen and do this activity in your workbooks. Alright, the third and final convention that we're going to look at today is perspective. Now, text response essays are written in third person because this makes our writing sound a little bit more sophisticated, assertive, and credible. This means you cannot, and I repeat, cannot use the following personal pronouns: I, me, us, we, or you. In other words, in your text response essays, you cannot use first or second person pronouns unless you are quoting from the book itself. We'll talk about quoting in tomorrow's lesson. Now, instead of using first and second person pronouns, you would refer to the author, the characters, and the audience only. So you might want to consider using these sentence starters below to avoid falling into the trap of first and second person pronouns. So you could start your sentences by saying Lee, that being Harper Lee, reveals and comments on ... Lee shows the reader that. Lee conveys or presents the message or the idea that ... Through this moment in the story, the readers are made to feel ... You could also begin your sentences by referring to the character's name and then saying something like is portrayed as or depicted as or described as. The key thing though, Year 9s, is that you refer to the author, the characters, and the audience only. You cannot use I, me, us, we, or you. So, again, I'm going to get you guys to pause this video in a moment. Let's have a go at this activity. So in your workbooks, I want you to first identify the first and second pronouns in the sentences below. And then I want you to rewrite the sentences in third person. So if you look at the first sentence, I think that the message Harper Lee presents to me is that you can only overcome prejudice through empathy. Now, what are the first and second person pronouns? I can spot I, me is first person, you is second person. So your job is to identify in these sentences the first and second person pronouns and then change them into third person, because that's how we write text response essays. Alrighty, Year 9s. Pause this video, have a crack at this task. Alright, Year 9s. So, I hope you guys found today's lesson useful. Tomorrow, we're going to keep looking at how to write text response essays, specifically around the conventions. Tomorrow, we're going to be focusing on quotes and how to weave or embed quotes seamlessly into our essays. On Thursday's double, we're going to look at how to plan an essay, which means by the end of the week, you should have done all the fundamental work or foundational work. So, at the start of week 7, next week, we'll be able to start writing our essay cap. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed this video, Year 9s. If you have any questions, email me. Otherwise, good luck and stay safe. I'll see you guys tomorrow.